welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling generative AI in education. It's a topic that seems to be everywhere these days. We're going deep into, well, a paper, actually. It's called the Manifesto for Teaching and Learning in a Time of Generative AI. And this one is kind of unique because it's got 45 experts all weighing in on this.
Yeah, it really is. It's a real collaborative effort to, try to figure out what this whole Gen AI thing means for, the future of learning and teaching. And it, kind of goes beyond just, trying to come up with solutions. It's more about trying to start a conversation, especially since there's still so much what we're all figuring out about this stuff.
Right. And instead of just jumping to conclusions, this paper uses metaphors to kind of grapple with, with the complexity of Gen AI. So they're comparing it to things like a co-pilot or a Forcer's apprentice or even a bullshit generator. I mean, what metaphor kind of resonates most with you and why?
Well, I think all these, contrasting ideas really kind of highlight how Gen AI is, more than just a tool. It's not a neutral thing, right? It reflects certain values and worldviews, often those of its creators, which are, often large corporations.
So it's not just a hammer, it's got its own agenda. That makes it less like a tool and more like an agent in the learning process,
Exactly, yeah. It interacts with us, communicates with us, generates content. It can even kind of challenge our thinking. And that interaction has some pretty huge implications for education. I mean, think about, for example, personalized learning.
Like a Gen AI tutor tailored to your specific needs, your learning style, available anytime. That could be amazing for students who struggle, in traditional settings.
Absolutely. And then also consider the potential benefits for, for educators. Gen AI could potentially handle really time-consuming tasks like grading, which would free up teachers to focus more on things like mentorship and deeper engagement with students.
That's a massive shift. But let's be real for a sec. There are two sides to every coin. And this paper does a good job of tackling both the, AI positive and the AI negative aspects of this. So what are some of the concerns that they raise?
Well, one major concern is, the potential for Gen AI to kind of worsen the digital divide that already exists. What happens, if only those who can afford it have access to these powerful AI tools? It could actually exacerbate existing educational inequalities.
That's a critical point for sure. It's not enough just to have amazing technology, right? Access has to be equitable if we're really going to change how everybody learns.
And then there's, the whole question of inherent bias. These Gen AI models, they're trained on vast amounts of data. And those data sets, they often reflect existing societal biases. So if we're not careful, these systems could actually perpetuate those biases in education, further disadvantaging certain groups of students.
So we really have to consider how these systems are developed and how they're deployed to make sure there's fairness and inclusion built in. But beyond those kind of, those practical concerns, are there deeper philosophical questions that this paper raises?
Oh, absolutely. The manifesto actually asks us to consider, what happens to our understanding of knowledge itself, in a world of instant AI-generated answers. I mean, will critical thinking, will creativity, original thought even, will they still be valued, when we can just ask a machine to do the bad work for us?
That's a big one. Does the paper, does it address these kinds of, philosophical concerns?
Well, it doesn't, offer any simple answers, but it does suggest that, we need to move past this idea of education as just transmitting knowledge, Instead, with Gen AI, the teacher's role might shift more towards guidance, like helping students sort through information and, helping them develop those uniquely human skills that AI, can't replicate.
So it's less about being the sage on the stage and more about being the guide on the side. Is that what the manifesto is getting at?
Exactly. Mentorship, critical thinking, and ethical decision-making, all of those things become even more crucial. We need learning environments where students, they grapple with complex questions, they experiment, they develop their own perspectives. And that's, it's pretty exciting, if kind of daunting, vision for the future of education.
It sounds like we're at a real turning point. What does the paper actually propose as concrete steps to move forward? Like, what actions do they actually, recommend?
Well, they really emphasize robust research. We need to understand like the real impact of Gen AI on learning, both good and bad, instead of relying on speculation and hype. And that research will then help inform, the development of ethical guidelines, which is another key point that they raise.
Okay, ethical guidelines for using Gen AI in education. What would that involve?
Well, it means tackling, some really tough questions about bias, about privacy, data security, and even the very nature of knowledge in a Gen AI driven world. And it's a big task. And the paper makes it clear that this can't be a top-down approach.
So we need collaboration then, right? Like educators, policymakers, tech developers, and of course, the students themselves all coming together. It sounds like quite a journey. But before we move on to those proposed actions, let's give our listener a moment to process everything that we've covered so far. We'll be back in a moment to explore how this manifesto, urges us to approach Gen AI and the future of education. We're back and ready to dig into those concrete steps that the manifesto proposes for navigating this kind of uncharted territory of Gen AI and education. Sounds like a real call to action here, and I'm curious to hear what they suggest.
Yeah, they definitely don't shy away from urging action, but it's not about offering a simple solution, right? They emphasize that shaping Gen AI's role in education really requires, a conscious effort from everyone involved, educators, policymakers, tech developers, and of course the students.
It's not a solo mission then. It's about collective responsibility.
Exactly, yeah. The paper really kind of pushes back against this idea of, just blindly accepting whatever comes down the pipeline. I argue that we need to actively shape how this technology integrates into our lives and our education systems.
Okay, so no passive observers allowed, right? What do they actually propose that we do?
Well, one of the first things they highlight is the need for research. Like, we really need to go beyond the hype, and the fears and really understand the true impact of Gen AI on learning, both the positive and the negative.
Yeah, solid research is crucial for sure, especially with a technology that's advancing so rapidly. What specific research areas do they point to?
Well, they call for studies that look at how Gen AI affects, various aspects of learning, from student engagement and motivation to, the development of critical thinking skills. And they also, they urge researchers to examine, the potential for bias in these systems and how to mitigate that.
So it's not just about, proving or disproving the benefits. It's about getting a really nuanced and comprehensive understanding of the real world effects of Gen AI in education.
Right. And they also emphasize the need for ethical guidelines and not just like broad principles, but, specific guidelines for developing and deploying these Gen AI tools in actual educational settings.
So guidelines that address those kind of thorny questions about, data privacy and bias and algorithms and even the changing nature of knowledge itself in a world where AI could just, generate answers on demand.
Exactly. Then those ethical guidelines, they need to be developed, collaboratively. They need input from everyone involved.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, a top-down approach wouldn't really capture the complexities of this situation, especially the concerns of students who are really at the heart of all of this.
And they specifically call for open dialogue and collaboration between educators, policymakers, technologists, and crucially, students themselves. They argue that students need to have a voice in shaping, how this technology impacts their education.
Yeah, including student perspectives is vital. I mean, they're the ones who are going to be, living with the consequences of these choices, for better or for worse.
And it's not just about, having a say. It's about empowering students to actually become, critical and informed users of this technology, of Gen AI. The paper argues that we need to rethink how we teach and how we assess learning in a time when, AI can just generate these seemingly, perfect answers.
It's almost as if we need to rethink the very definition of what it means to know something. When we have these tools at our disposal. What does the paper propose in terms of those those big picture shifts.
Well, they challenge us to move beyond, just rote memorization and the pursuit of, of right answers. They really urge a shift toward cultivating, deeper understanding, critical thinking, creativity, and ethical awareness. All those skills that become even more crucial in a world where AI can just handle all those, the routine tasks for us.
So instead of fearing that, the Gen AI will make students less capable, we should maybe see it as an opportunity to help them develop those human skills that will be even more valuable in the future, right? Sounds like a pretty radical reframing of education.
It is, and that leads to another crucial point that the paper raises, which is, preparing students for the future workplace. I mean, we know that Gen AI is already transforming, many industries, and those changes are, they're only going to accelerate.
Right. So it's not just about learning about Gen AI in the abstract. It's about, equipping students with the skills to use these tools effectively and ethically in their future careers.
Exactly. I mean, imagine a workplace where AI can handle, a lot of the routine tasks, the ability to think critically, to solve, complex problems, to collaborate effectively, and to communicate persuasively. All of those things become even more valuable in that kind of context.
Like Gen AI is raising the bar for what it means to be a skilled and adaptable worker. Are there specific ways that educators can integrate this kind of future focused learning into their classrooms?
Well, the manifesto suggests, incorporating Gen AI tools into the curriculum, and not just as, subjects of study, but as tools for learning itself. Imagine students using Gen AI to research complex topics, to collaborate on projects, or even to create, innovative solutions to real world problems.
So it's about making Gen AI part of the learning process itself, not just a separate topic to be studied, but with all this emphasis on technical skills and adapting to the future. Do we risk losing sight of the human element in education?
That's a valid concern, and the paper definitely doesn't shy away from addressing that. They emphasize that even as we embrace, the potential of Gen AI, we also need to remember the importance of human connection and those uniquely human qualities that AI can't replicate.
So it's a delicate balancing act, isn't it? Embracing the potential of AI while preserving the essence of what makes us human.
Precisely, yeah. And that leads us to perhaps the most profound question that the manifesto raises. In a world where AI can answer almost any question, what is the role of the human teacher?
That's a question that's been on my mind throughout this whole deep dive. What insights does the manifesto offer on that crucial question? Yeah, we've covered so much in this deep dive, from the potential of Gen AI to personalized learning to those very, very real concerns about bias and access, right? But now we're kind of at the heart of it all. What happens to the role of the teacher, in a world where AI seems capable of providing, any answer?
It's a question that the manifesto, really grapples with directly. The authors acknowledge that Gen AI could really fundamentally shift our understanding of what it means to be a teacher. They suggest that rather than viewing AI as a threat, we should consider it maybe as an opportunity to redefine the teacher's role.
So instead of being the primary source of information, like the sage on the stage, so to speak, how does that role evolve?
Well, the paper proposes that the teacher becomes more of a facilitator, a guide, a mentor, someone who helps students navigate this new landscape of information, develop critical thinking skills and discern, quality information from all the noise that AI can sometimes, generate.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. It's not about knowing all the answers anymore. It's about knowing how to ask the right questions, how to evaluate information, critically, and how to apply knowledge, creatively.
Exactly. Yeah. In a world where AI can readily provide information, human teachers become even more crucial in fostering those uniquely human skills that AI just can't replicate. Critical thinking, empathy, ethical decision making, creativity, the ability to connect with and inspire others.
So the role of the teacher actually becomes even more human-centered, even in this increasingly technology-driven world. Right? It's kind of a fascinating paradox.
It really is, and the manifesto really highlights the need for teachers to embrace this shift and to develop new skills to effectively integrate Gen AI into their classrooms.
What kind of skills are we talking about here?
Well, they talk about the importance of understanding how these AI systems, how they work, recognizing their limitations, and being able to critically evaluate the information they produce. Teachers will also need to become skilled at facilitating discussions, guiding students in using Gen AI effectively, and helping them develop those essential human skills that will complement and enhance their AI interactions.
It sounds like a pretty demanding, but also incredibly exciting opportunity for educators to really shape the future of learning.
It is, and the manifesto also emphasizes the importance of ongoing professional development for teachers, ensuring they have the support and the resources they need to navigate this new landscape.
Yeah, that's essential. I mean, teachers can't be expected to just figure all of this out on their own. But beyond the practicalities of skills and resources, does the paper address the philosophical implications of this shift, this shift in the role of the teacher?
Absolutely. Yeah, they urge us to consider what it means to learn and to know. In a world where AI can just, readily provide answers, right? They suggest that we may need to move beyond a kind of deterministic view of knowledge, where there's always a single right answer, and instead embrace a more fluid and inquiry based approach to learning.
So instead of focusing on memorizing facts and figures, which AI can do better than any human, right? We shift towards a deeper understanding of concepts and critical analysis and creative problem solving.
Precisely. The manifesto really calls for a fundamental rethinking of educational goals and assessment methods. In light of these emerging technologies, they argue that we need to assess, not just what students know, but how they think, how they learn, and how they can apply their knowledge in creative and innovative ways.
It sounds like a much more holistic and dare I say human-centered approach to education.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. And ultimately the manifesto, it challenges us all, educators, policymakers, parents, students, everyone to engage in a thoughtful and ongoing dialogue about the future we want to create, with Gen AI in education.
It's not about simply accepting or rejecting this technology, right? It's about shaping its development and integration in ways that serve our values and enhance our humanity.
Yeah, and the paper ends with this really powerful image. Will we blindly follow the Gen AI rabbit down the hole, or will we approach this powerful technology with wisdom and intention? That choice, they argue, is ultimately up to us.
It's a powerful reminder that we're not passive bystanders in this technological revolution, right? We have agency, and we have a responsibility to shape this future in a way that benefits all of humanity.
I think this deep dive has taken us on quite a journey, from the practicalities of personalized learning to the philosophical depth of what it means to know and to learn in a time of AI.
It's been a really thought-provoking exploration, and I hope it's given our listener plenty to ponder.
Yeah, we encourage you to check out the source material for yourself and to continue exploring this fascinating and rapidly rapidly evolving topic.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of, of generative AI and education. Until next time, stay curious and keep learning.